Welcome back to the Caregiver Minute, where every weekday family and professional caregivers gather to refine their skills, gain inspiration, and prepare to serve. We talk a lot here on the Caregiver Minute about dementia, and today I want to talk about a different D word, delirium. Now, there's an overlap in symptoms between dementia and delirium. Both involve cognitive decline. Often there's memory loss, difficulty in reasoning and planning and judgment, and there can be personality changes and other symptoms of cognitive decline. But dementia tends to come on slowly, and it progresses pretty slowly. Delirium tends to come on rapidly, like overnight or in a matter of hours. And when you can identify the underlying root cause and you treat it, the symptoms clear, the fog lifts, and people go back to their baseline. Many healthcare professionals have had the experience of a resident, whether they have dementia or not, getting suddenly much more confused and agitated. And the common thing that people have learned to point to is a urinary tract infection. It is true that a urinary tract infection can trigger delirium, especially in elderly people. But it's not the only thing that can trigger it. So today, and for the next few days, I'm going to walk you through an acronym that helps to identify some of the other things that commonly trigger delirium. When we can identify those root causes, we can do something about it and help people function better. The acronym that I'll share with you is the word delirium. Let's first talk about the D. D reminds us that dehydration is a major cause of delirium. A lot of older adults are chronically dehydrated. They avoid drinking as much as they can because they don't want to have to use the bathroom. And so they become more and more depleted in fluids, and you can't make energy if you don't have sufficient water in your system. A lot of people also don't like the taste of water. They tend to drink a lot of things like coffee. Well, coffee is a diuretic. It causes you to lose fluids. So if you're taking care of someone that drinks coffee like it's going out of style, dehydration may be a major cause in their decline. I've mentioned here before on the Caregiver Minute how frequently I've seen people go off to the emergency department for one reason or another. They get checked out, and while they're there, they get a tune-up with a bag of fluids that gets pumped into them, and they come back a lot sharper than they were. That's because dehydration is a major cause of cognitive challenges. Dehydration is also a factor when people drink a lot of alcohol. And we also have to be thoughtful about various drug interactions. Some medications, or the way that they interact with other medications, may trigger things like diarrhea that can be very dehydrating to people. And we need to be aware of that and pay attention to what their bowel habits have been like and whether there's medication that might be causing some problems for people. A lot of people with dementia also develop swallowing issues. And if you're not swallowing things very well and it's harder to eat, you might not eat as much food. And some of our hydration is the result of the foods that we eat. It's not just the glass of water that we drink. So we need to pay attention to all of those factors if we're going to figure out how to help people be really well hydrated. We should also recognize that hydration is not just about water. It's also about electrolytes. And if your electrolytes are off, you're likely to become delirious. I've mentioned before on the Caregiver Minute an experience that I had with a lady who drank too much water, and she wasn't replacing salts, and she diluted her salt so much that she could have had a heart attack. But instead, she became so confused, so delirious that she started hallucinating. And she called the police and said, "There are 12 dead bodies in my front yard. Would someone come and clean them up?" And it's a good thing they got there quickly, because by the time they broke her front door down, she was passed out, totally unconscious on the living room floor. And they had carted her off to the local emergency department, where it took them a few days to rebalance her fluid and electrolytes and get her back to her baseline. Even just having dementia is a risk factor for dehydration, because many people living with dementia don't feel as thirsty as others do. And they don't remember whether they've had fluids or not. And so they're chronically dehydrated unless we're watching out for them and helping them really stay well hydrated. One thing to watch for is to make sure that the person you're serving is making regular trips to the bathroom to urinate, that they have a high volume of urine, and that it's relatively colorless. If it starts to get really dark and cloudy, they are very dehydrated. That is low-hanging fruit in so many cases, and we need to be eyes and ears and pay attention for people. The E in our acronym, Delirium, reminds us that endocrine disorder and electrolyte imbalances are major triggers for delirium. Now, if someone has an endocrine problem like diabetes, where they have wildly fluctuating blood sugars, that can certainly cause delirium. I've seen people whose sugars are bottoming out and they are completely confused. They don't know which way is up until they get some sugar in their system and things level out. If someone's sugars get too high, that may also be a bit of a problem. If someone's on a diuretic or they're on heart medication or they're on seizure medication, they might have some challenges with their endocrine system that are contributing to delirium. And it's important to work with a good nurse or another healthcare professional to sort through some of those things to figure out what might actually be triggering the symptoms that you're seeing. So today we've talked about a couple of things: dehydration and endocrine disruption and electrolyte imbalances that can trigger delirium. When you come back tomorrow, we're going to talk about the next two letters in our acronym Delirium. I hope to see you then, and I hope you have a great rest of your day in the meantime. Thanks for watching.